Well, it is the most wonderful time of the year, Christmas season. Aren't you excited? I certainly am. This is my favorite time of all year long. Let me begin this message today by asking you a question. How many of you remember the original Star Trek on TV? If you do, you remember that it opened up with the line, "To boldly go where no man has gone before." Do you remember that? Well, recently, William Shatner, one of the original Trekkies on that TV show, had a dream come true. He became the oldest man to ever go to space. At 90 years of age, he boldly went where no 90-year-old has gone before. Well, today I want to talk with you about some other Trekkies of sorts who were a huge part of that very first Christmas some 2,000 years ago. We call them the Magi, or the wise men. They were the first people that we know of who boldly ventured out and followed a star to discover the unknown, the unheard of, God coming to earth in the person of a baby. Incidentally, you know what would have happened if there had been 3 wise women, don't you? Someone said they would have asked for directions. They would have arrived on time. They would have helped deliver the baby, cleaned the stable, made a casserole, and brought disposable diapers as a gift, right? Anyway, let's see what God would have us learn from these wise men, these original Star Trekkers, if you will. First of all, I want you to know they were seekers. And as such, they teach us that God is ever willing to reveal Himself to those who will seek Him. In Matthew 2, the very first verse says, "After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem. And they asked, 'Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw His star when it rose and have come to worship Him.'" Now, astronomers tell us that around this time there was, in fact, a star which shone brightly in the eastern sky. And it was seen again actually last year on December 21st. Because on that day, Jupiter and Saturn aligned so closely that they appeared as one star. And it's believed by some in the scientific world that the same conjunction occurred in 7 BC and could very well be the Star of Bethlehem that guided these wise men. Interesting, yes? Now think about this. The Star of Bethlehem was so brilliant and different and unusual that everyone in that region could have seen it. The religious leaders could have seen it. The Roman rulers, the skeptics, the believers, they all could have seen the star. Yet interestingly, only these wise men ventured out to follow it. Isn't that something? Let me remind you about these men, by the way, these wise men, we call them. We sing a song at Christmas, "We 3 Kings of Orient are." But in fact, the Bible does not say there were actually 3 of them. 3 gifts were given that we'll talk about in a few moments, so we make an assumption, but we really don't know that for sure. Also, they were not really known for being kings, as much as they were known as priests or holy men, seekers after spiritual truth. And they were not even from the Orient. They were from Persia. Think about modern-day Iran. And these wise men were not riding camels. Persia was known for their magnificent horses. So I'm sorry to ruin your nativity set. But in spite of all that, the thing to get here is that they were seekers. And because of that, God revealed Himself to them. Now guess what? God is the same today as He was then. If someone is serious about seeking and discovering spiritual truth in their life, they'll find it. If you're serious about it, you'll find it too. And get this, Jesus is called the King of the Jews, but these first seekers were not Jewish, which is extremely significant, by the way, because it was God's way of telling us today that Jesus came to be everyone's Messiah. He came to be everyone's Savior. Listen, no matter who you are, Jew or Gentile, black or white, rich or poor, male or female, Jesus came to this world for you. So if you truly want to experience God in your life, all you have to do is seek Him with sincerity and passion, and I promise you, you'll find Him. Okay, well, these wise men, first of all, were seekers, but secondly, they were givers. And the lesson here is this: because God is a giver, He expects His children to be givers as well. Like John 3:16 that says, because God so deeply loved the world, He gave His only Son. God is an extravagant giver. So naturally, when we study the message and the meaning of Christmas, we discover that at its heart and soul is this word giving. For instance, notice the Magi's gifts. These wise men, they brought 3 gifts to Jesus. Matthew 2:11 says, on coming to the house, they saw the child with His mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped Him. And then they opened their treasures and presented Him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Now, gold was so appropriate as a gift because gold has always been known as the metal of kings. So presenting a gift of gold to Jesus was to acknowledge His right to rule and to reign. In other words, it was a conscious acquiescence to His authority, to His authority. And what a striking picture this is. 3 kings bowing and paying homage to the King of Kings. So let me ask you something. Have you ever paid homage to the King of Kings? In other words, acknowledged His right to rule and reign in you? And incidentally, the rule of Christ in our lives is not like how some people suppose and how sometimes it's taught, that He is our controller, our boss, our taskmaster. Not at all. Jesus as our ruling King is best understood like He is presented in the Christmas song, Joy to the World, where the song says, He rules the world with truth and grace. So the question is, does truth, which is basically sincerity and openness, does that rule your life? How about God's grace? Does His grace rule over you? Or does the law or legalism, a do this, don't do that mentality seem to rule your day today? You see, Jesus came to the earth to be the truth and grace King over all the kingdoms of our lives. That means our marriages, our families, our careers, our interactions with those we work with and otherwise do life with. So the question is, are you living a sincere and truthful life in those relationships? Are you living a life of grace giving when others don't act or do or live as you think they should live? It's hard sometimes, isn't it? I mean, people, events, life situations are just difficult at times. But thankfully, God knew all that beforehand, which is why we even have a Christmas season. Listen, don't forget this. God did not send His Son to earth because He needed us. He sent Jesus because we needed Him. All right, the gift of gold. Secondly, these wise men, we are told, brought frankincense or incense. Now, frankincense was a sweet and redolent perfume. It was used often in times of the temple sacrifices. It was usually mixed with oil and used to anoint the priests before their ceremonial obligations. And like gold, frankincense is quite an appropriate gift to bring to Jesus because it symbolized His mission on this earth. Christ has come to be the high priest for all the people. By the way, the word priest is the Latin word pontifex, and it means bridge builder. Jesus has come to bridge the gap between law and grace, between sin and forgiveness, and between bondage and freedom. He came to show humankind, all of us, that God has always been there and that He will always be there because He is the bridge. And you see, this is really our Christmas message, the one we're to share with others. This is the glorious gospel truth that we are to herald to all those around us today. It is that Christ has made a way. He is the answer to every question. He is the solution to every problem. He is the Savior. He is your Savior who simply bids you, come to me. Listen, would you like to do something nice for someone at Christmas? Introduce them to the bridge. Would you like to give your friends and family and loved ones the gift that just keeps on increasing in value year after year after year? Give them the bridge. Introduce them to your Savior, Jesus Christ. So their extravagant giving involved gold, it involved frankincense, and then myrrh. Now, myrrh was a precious, expensive spice, by the way, and it was used in preparing dead bodies for entombment. It was literally the embalming fluid of that day. Now, by any human measure, it would be sort of odd, if not offensive really, to present to the infant Christ a spice used for embalming. I mean, after all, these wise men were here to celebrate life, not death, yes? However, in this case, the gift was neither offensive nor odd. It was actually a gift of faith because it was a foreshadow. It was a harbinger of why Jesus came to this earth to begin with. Holman Hunt painted a picture of Christ in the afternoon standing in the doorway of the carpenter's shop. He had been working and he was stretching his tired muscles. As he did, the sun shone through a window across Jesus' frame and produced a shadow like unto a cross. Mary, his mother, sees the shadow, striking deep fear and dread in her eyes because she knows it is his future. Her son was born to die. You see, that's the inglorious fact of Christmas, that Christ must be born to die. But the glorious fact of Christmas is that His death was a reminder that we are children of God forever. His death is a forever reminder that we have been freed from guilt and the shame of our transgressions and freed unto be able to enjoy the beauty and magnificence of living as sons and daughters of the Most High God. The story of the wise men, the miracle of Christmas, is that God gave to humankind His absolute, single, solitary, best gift of all. And what does He expect in return from us? What does He require from us? Only one thing: to live out His grace, to live out His forgiveness, and to live out His goodness in a world that is searching and longing for hope. Will you remember that this Christmas season? Others around you need to hear this message. Max Lucado tells a story about a father and son he saw one Christmas near his son. And a few years later, after reading that story, a group of us, where I was pastoring at the time, saw the very same thing right here in Florida. Our small group went out looking at Christmas lights one evening. And some of the displays in one particular neighborhood were amazing. We came upon one of the most fabulous displays we'd ever seen in this particular neighborhood. There were real animals like sheep, a cow, goats. They even had a St. Bernard dog dressed up like a camel. And the lights, thousands and thousands of lights. And they had the blow-up cartoon characters. And of course, old Santa Claus was there. And it was overwhelming, really, when you trying to take it all in, like a visit to Disney World. But the center of attention was the live nativity with all the characters: Mary, Joseph, the wise men, the angels, and of course, baby Jesus. But the thing that really captured our attention as we looked at all this magnificence was one little boy and girl who happened to be twins, about 5 years old or so. They were standing in quiet amazement while their dad, down on one knee, was leaning into them, speaking softly. And you could tell by his gestures that he was explaining everything and everyone in that Christmas nativity to his children. And oh, I wish you could have seen their faces, the sparkle in their eyes, the amazement in their expressions. Later, as our group gathered back at our home, all any of us could talk about was that dad explaining the greatest story ever told to his two children, and how that single gesture by that dad would most likely have an indelible and life-changing effect on those two kids. I tell you that story to say this: enjoy your season, enjoy your Christmas, but let me encourage you to not do it alone or closed off. Be a giver. Share the joy of the Savior with others. Will you do that? Listen, I'll be back next week for another message for this Christmas season. Until then, have a blessed week. Enjoy all the preparations that you're making for the great celebration on December 25th. And if I can help you in any way, if I can answer any question, pray for you, you can contact me by email on our website, newdaychurchbrandon.org, or you can PM me on any social media venue, and I'll get back to you very quickly and answer whatever question you have or pray for whatever need that you have as well. God bless you. Merry Christmas. I pray that you have a terrific week as you get ready for your celebration. We'll see you again next week, the Lord willing. Bye-bye.